Here's a question I've heard in one form or another from more people than I can count. Why is the Bible so hard to read? Sometimes it's a frustrated question. Someone made a sincere attempt. They bought the nice edition. They started with the best intentions. And somewhere around all the names and the genealogies and the strange laws about goats, they quietly closed it and they never went back. And they walked away feeling like the problem was them. Like maybe they just weren't smart enough or spiritual enough or patient enough. I want to say something to that person because you might be that person. The problem isn't you. And the problem isn't really the Bible either. The problem is the distance. And once you understand the distance, once you can actually name what's in the way, something shifts. The book that felt closed and locked to you starts to open. So today, that's what I want to do. I want to hand you the key we've been using in every single episode so far and show you exactly how it works. Welcome to Now It Makes Sense. I'm Dr. William Attaway, and this is the show where we go back into the ancient world the Bible came from so that what it meant then can make sense now. No background required, no prior faith assumed. Just honest questions taken seriously. Let me start with a picture. Imagine you walk into a movie 45 minutes late. You find your seat in the dark, and the film is well underway. And you try to follow it, but you don't know who these people are. You don't know why that character is crying, or why the room went silent when that man walked in, or what the thing in the locked drawer is supposed to mean. Everyone around you is gasping at moments that, to you, look like nothing. You're seeing the exact same screen as everyone else. You're hearing the same words, but you're missing the meaning because you missed the part that made it all make sense. That's what reading the Bible can feel like. Not because the story is bad, but because we walked in late, about 2,000 to 3,000 years late, and no one handed us the first 45 minutes. So let me name the distance, because it's not just one gap. It's actually several, stacked on top of each other. And when you can see them clearly, you can start to bridge them, which is the whole game. Here's the first gap: time. The most recent parts of the Bible are about 2,000 years old. The oldest parts are far older than that. These texts come to us across an enormous stretch of history. And things that everyone understood back then, things that were so obvious nobody bothered to explain them, they are completely invisible to us now. Think about it this way. If you wrote a letter to a close friend today, you wouldn't explain what a phone is. You wouldn't define what it means to leave someone on red. You'd assume they know. Now imagine someone reads that letter 3,000 years from now. They'd be baffled by half of it. Not because you wrote badly, but because you were writing to someone who shared your world. The Bible was written by people who shared a world with their original readers, a world we don't live in. So they left 1,000 things unexplained because for the first audience, they didn't need explaining. Here's the second gap: language. The Bible wasn't written in English. The Old Testament was written mostly in Hebrew, with some sections of Aramaic. The New Testament was written in Greek. Every Bible you've ever held in English is a translation. And translations, even brilliant translations, always lose something, because every translation is an interpretation. We saw this in one of our first episodes. There's a moment where the original word for charcoal fire, one specific Greek word, quietly connects two scenes across the story in a way you simply can't see in English, because English uses different phrases in the two places. The connection is right there in the original. It's invisible in translation. Not because the translators fail, but because no translation can carry every echo. So sometimes the meaning is hiding in a word. And when someone shows you that word in a passage that you've read 100 times, it suddenly begins to light up. Here's the third gap, and this might be the biggest one: culture. Every story assumes a world, a set of customs and values, of social rules and assumptions that the original audience carried in their bones, but never spelled out, because why would you spell out what everybody already knows? We saw this with Ruth. On the surface, it's a gentle story. But the original audience knew instantly that Moabite was a loaded word, heavy with old hostility. They knew what a kinsman redeemer was. They knew what was happening at the threshing floor and at the city gate. None of that is explained in the text because the first readers didn't need it explained. To us, it's a closed door. To them, it was the air they breathed. And we saw it with Jonah. The whole story turns on knowing who the Assyrians were. And the text never stops to tell you, because the first audience flinched the moment they heard the name Nineveh. We don't flinch. So we miss the entire emotional core unless someone fills in that world. Here's the fourth gap: geography. The Bible happens in real places, real distances, real terrain, real routes. And when you don't know the map, you miss things that are sitting right there in the text. When Jonah runs, he doesn't just go away. He heads for Tarshish, which, as far as we can tell, was about as far west as a person could possibly go, possibly all the way toward the edge of the known world in Spain. Nineveh was to the east. So Jonah isn't just declining an assignment. He is running deliberately in the exact opposite direction, toward the farthest edge of the map he can reach. You feel the desperation of his flight only when you know where these places actually were. And here's the fifth gap: genre, the kind of writing you're reading. This one trips up a lot of people because the Bible is not one book. It's a whole library written across centuries in many different forms. There's history, there's poetry, there's law, there are proverbs, these short sayings about how life generally works. There's prophecy. There are letters written to specific communities about specific situations. There are highly symbolic visions. And you're meant to read them differently. The same way that you already today instinctively read a newspaper differently than you read a poem. Or you read a letter from your spouse differently than you read the instructions on a bottle of medicine. Nobody reads a love poem and complains that the metaphors aren't literally accurate. We know the genre, so we know how to read it. A huge amount of confusion about the Bible comes from reading one kind of writing as if it were another. When you learn to recognize what kind of text you're in, a lot of the supposed problems simply dissolve. So those are the 5 gaps: time, language, culture, geography, and genre. And here's the line that I most want you to take with you today. There's a way of putting this that has helped a lot of people, and it goes like this: the Bible was written for us, but it was not written to us. Sit with that for a second. For us, but not to us. It wasn't written to you in your language, in your century, with your assumptions. It was written to ancient people in their languages, in their world. The first audience was someone else. But, and this is the hopeful part, it was written for you and for me. The meaning is meant to reach you. It's meant to cross the distance and land in your actual life. The gaps are real, but they are bridgeable. That's the entire premise of this show. The distance is not a wall. It's a bridge waiting to be built. And once it's built, you and I can walk straight across. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I hear you, but I'm not a scholar. I don't read Hebrew and Greek. I don't have a map of the ancient Near East in my head. Do I need a seminary degree just to read this thing? No, you really don't. And here's why. The whole reason a show like this exists, the whole reason people have spent lifetimes studying the history, the languages, the culture, the geography, is so that you don't have to do all that yourself in order to benefit from it. Someone bridges the gap and then walks you across. You don't have to build the bridge. You just have to be willing to cross it. And here's the beautiful thing I've watched happen over and over. Once people cross that bridge, even just a couple of times, once they experience the difference that context makes, they stop feeling stupid in front of the Bible. They stop feeling locked out because now they know. When something is confusing, it's probably not because I'm failing. It's probably because there is a piece of this world that I haven't been handed yet. And that's a question that can be asked. That's a door we can knock on. That changes your whole posture. Confusion stops being a wall that shuts you out, and it becomes a doorway that invites you in. Every, that's strange, becomes, I wonder what they knew that I don't. And that question, that curious, honest question, is the beginning of everything. So here's where we've come. The Bible isn't hard because you're not smart enough. It's hard because you walked in late to a story told in another language, shaped by a culture you've never lived in, set in places you've never been, written in forms you weren't taught to recognize. Name the gap and you can bridge it. And when you do, the thing that felt distant and confusing becomes clear and close and alive. That's not a trick. That's not theology being forced on you. That's just what happens when you finally get to see the first 45 minutes of the film. Every week, that's exactly what we're going to keep doing. One story, one word, one piece of the ancient world at a time. Now, it makes sense. Wherever you are, whatever you believe or don't believe, however late you feel like you walked in, you're welcome here. There are no questions that are off limits. There's no prerequisite. There's just the next story and an open door. God can handle your questions. This is the place for them.